Wow, that looks flash.
This is quite a flash little thing, isn't it?
Isn't it? Just blimey.
Wow.
Okay, you guys, it's just Monday morning. Calm down.
Hey, we don't have this stuff.
Good morning, everybody. It's Cooke here, leading business advisor and founder of The Engine. Last week was Mental Health Awareness Week. Today, I'm back with John Shackleton, renowned speaker and psychologist in the mental wellness and mindfulness space. And I'm also joined by my client, Kelly Young, former MasterChef Finalist and co-owner of 9 Round Albany. We're here to talk about basically how you can bring daily stress and worry away out of your life every day. So it is a daily habit. We were actually just having a bit of a laugh beforehand just about that countdown, and John was absolutely in awe of the technology. Start with you first and foremost, all the way down in Pukekohe. How are you doing?
Very good indeed, thank you. It's a lovely, lovely rainy day, but other than that, beautiful.
I love how you said lovely rainy day, John, because it just reframed the opportunity. I've had some people send me messages going, yeah, it wasn't a great weekend, COVID news and the weather. And I went, okay, we're alive. Kelly, how are you doing?
Yeah, really good. Actually, my partner's big on reframing the mind first thing in the morning, eh? So, no, we are good. We've started off the day with an exercise class. With our people online, and so started the week off in a good way.
And Kelly, what I didn't actually say is that you're also a health and wellness coach in your own right, and also a client of mine. And I love our session because you always turn up like this complete fireball with all this energy and passion, and then we've got to break it all down. And I just love your energy. But some days it can be really hard to actually have that energy, right? And
100%.
Do you feel comfortable talking to the viewers about those days and what you do to break that habit?
Oh yeah, like everyone, the tough days can become very tough, and especially I'd say I probably relate to a lot of business owners around this time, the last couple of years. It was super unpredictable about what's happened within the business space. And just the pressure that you have as passionate people within your industry, whatever the industry it is, the pressure you also have for many is the fact that you've got other people's livelihoods are at stake as well, and that as well as your own livelihood at stake. And so not every day is a fireball day and skip into the sunset kind of day. And yeah, it's really important, like we're saying, what this conversation is about is to be able to set habits and continuously work towards those habits, even more so on the days that you don't want to, because you might feel like overwhelmed, pressured, frustrated, stressed, angry, sad, whatever. They're the most important days where you've got to just do something to put that one foot in front of the other in that positive way to help fuel your body and mind, and not sort of self-destruct or self-implode. So yeah, it is challenging. I've been through my fair share of highs and lows, to say the least.
Yeah, look, and I really appreciate you talking to the viewers about that. I mean, I've quite often talk to clients about, the reason that we come up with that saying of the ostrich burying the head in the sand. The ostrich did that to stop predators knowing that there was an ostrich there. It wasn't because it actually didn't want to see what was coming. It just sort of put my head in the sand. The lion might not see me, but the reality is the lion is still there. So I'm going to come to you, John. John, you and we met probably, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago now. And what really struck a chord with me is your story, and I guess we've all got that shared story of adversity and building resilience. But what I love about you, John, is the habits that you create in other people's lives, but you've been there yourself. So talk to us about that.
Nothing, in my book anyway, nothing changes unless you change habits. We've got thinking habits, which we are actually not really aware of. Just to give you an example, I was a very intense worrier, but I wouldn't have, back in those days at that time, I didn't think I was a worrier. That's just how my life was. But now looking at it from the future and looking back and thinking, oh yeah, I was a very intense worrier. That was a mental habit. It was something that I did over and over and over and over and over again, built up a habit, and it became my normal way of practice. And I wasn't aware. Other people looking at me were aware of it, but I wasn't aware of it. So I think by discovering that, not just for myself, but generally we all act in particular ways because we all have particular mental habits. In discovering that, I realized that I could create new habits, and it's just practice. It's a bit like sport. Kelly will tell you, you want to change an action you're doing in swimming or whatever it is, you have to practice it over and over again until you get muscle memory of the new habit. And this is muscle memory in the head.
And I always say to people all the time, I say to people all the time, if you want a different outcome, then you need a different strategy. And that's why I believe Kelly and Dave are working with me, is because when you think deep in it, you think of it a certain way, but when you've got somebody that you can actually bounce off, you get a different perspective. It doesn't mean my perspective's the right one, but it can get them to that point of actually, that sort of aha moment. That moment they go, yes.
I don't think you can make progress without a coach. I really don't, because you're so built inside of something that you can't see it happening. You need somebody from the outside looking in and saying, well, hang on, this is what's happening. Then you can see it. But, even though I've been a coach all my life, when I went through my depression, I had to get an external coach to help me to see what the problem was.
Absolutely. Like when you're really thick in it, you just really need to get that expert person to come in and help guide you to where you need to go. Just going back to that ostrich analogy that I just gave, there was never one problem solved by ignoring it. But sometimes when we actually go to solve it, we react. And I always say to people, it's really a really good idea that you stop and you pause and you maybe reflect on the situation. You reframe it and then you go forward. But if you can't reframe it, that's when you go and seek expert advice. You do have an opportunity to pause. So Kelly, if I can start with you, this has been, obviously something that you've even learned and put into practice, is you don't need to deal with something right then and there. So talk me through the benefit that's helped you in terms of understanding that.
Well, like John was saying before, even as coaches, we know the value of getting external help in areas that we need as well. And that, like you were talking, John, about worrying being one of your things, and sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you don't even think it's a problem, whereas mine was reactiveness. And it all came down, when I unpacked it all, was the fact that I always wanted everyone to be okay. Like, I wanted everyone around me to be happy, to be okay, no conflict, just get it all sorted. And I did it so much so where I was reacting to everyone's emotions right then and there, or situations, to get it fixed straight away, that my energy input was just darting here, there, and everywhere. And when you're a business owner, you can often feel like you've got every hat of every role on at multiple different times in one day. And it's just, when you're in the thick of it, there is sometimes so much little time that you actually take a step back and assess the situation first of how you're reacting, is that the days then turn into weeks. The weeks then turn into months. And then next thing you know, you look at the year and you go, oh, year's gone. And so much of not only the physical side of you has been outputting in areas and in ways that has your central nervous system going in and out of the red zone, and often staying within a red zone of a tiger, saber-toothed tiger is going to come and kill you. Or Dave used to say, the pterodactyls, he used to say, pterodactyls aren't here. And he looked out the window and he goes, yep, no pterodactyls here to kill you today, Kelly. But, you know, the value of learning how to not only train the body so it keeps healthy and well, but train the mind. And I was lucky enough to have John and work with John for a period of time to help train my mind for it to be in the present, to slow down so that my reactions weren't constantly putting out fires. I was
your reactivity, if you think about it, your reactivity is a mental habit. It's something that you learned to do. And unaware, you didn't intentionally learn to do it, but you learned to do it by repeatedly doing it. And suddenly it's your way of being. And if you think about it, it's crazy, because to react to somebody's emotions, people's emotions change in a second. So you're reacting to an emotion which by the time you've reacted to it, that person's changed their emotion anyway. So actually the whole idea of stepping back and not reacting is the perfect way of actually behaving. So it's a great example of how those habits are born inside of us. Yeah,
and I often refer it to as a superpower. Like, being caring is what has gotten me into this industry, because I care so much. However, you really need to self-assess regularly to make sure what your superpower is doing is it's actually benefiting you, filling you up first before you put it out there. And I say my superpowers around caring and having that emotional intelligence to be able to sense when someone needs help or just needs me to be there or needs some guidance or, you know, those things there. But you have to also know that superpowers are the ones that can also cloud over you and bring you down and suck you dry if you don't become aware and check in all the time, self-assess. And so
awareness,
for me,
you just said the word awareness. That's without any doubt the key. It's just training, and that's what we're doing with mindfulness. It's training our awareness so that we become more and more aware of how we feel, how we act, how we behave, of our reactivity. The more aware we are, the less we will do those things. We still do them. I don't know about you, but I still I still worry, but I'm now, I can see it and you go, oh, I see what you're doing. You're actually making me worry. Oh, okay. I can, that's worry. Yeah, I recognize that. So it's like stepping away from it.
Yeah, the other thing too really is also to consider the impact of how you react. For example, I say to people, you know, if it is a situation that's not savory, like, you know, it's causing you a lot of stress, is role play out the options that are open to you and the impact that it could have on the other side. So you got a response from somebody, you've read it a certain way. Is it not better to kind of pause and read it again, or pause and pick up the phone, rather than responding in the way you read it and then creating an impact that you've then got to recover from? And
that's doing the same thing, Catherine. You're doing exactly the same thing by that. You're withdrawing yourself from reacting. You're saying, I'm just going to observe this for a while, get some more input. And that beautiful example, great example.
Yeah, and the reason I say that is quite often right now, and especially over the last couple of years, and helping a lot of employers, they can't afford the financial cost, they can't afford the emotional cost that it's costing them on some of the decisions that they've made. So you know, they've said, if only I'd had someone like you, Catherine, experience, but I couldn't afford you. And I'm like, but how do you know you couldn't afford me when you didn't know what my cost was? But now you're faced with this massive cost of trying to clean it up. So then it's using that pause button, which is really, really important, and understanding that, you know, you can kind of lose a relationship very quickly by reacting in a certain way. And I also, you know, there's people that choose to not actually react at all, John. What would you say about that? Because, you know, I see it quite a lot in my type of work where people just withdraw completely.
Well, let me backtrack very slightly first, because one of the things about our society, our world these days, is that You know, email is instant, texting is instant, and therefore we're sort of drawn into this idea that I have to answer immediately. Otherwise I'm going to lose the business or whatever it is. I don't think that's necessarily true. And I am you will notice, Catherine, if you send me a text or an email or something, it may be that I answer it in 5 minutes, but I might not answer it till the next day, because I deliberately turn the phone off and don't react, because reacting drives me into that horrible worry loop. So I just step back. Oh yeah, I've got to remember to do that. So I write it down on a piece of paper or whatever I do. But then I just give it time to mull over. And then invariably the answer comes up, which is a non-reactive answer. That's the beautiful thing about it, is the answer comes up that how I need to cope with this, but it's not a jump in there and fight the situation immediately. It's not that I'm clever. It's just that I just backed off and let the situation, I was going to say mature, but let you know, sort of let it soak for a bit. That's what you do with the washing, isn't it? You let it soak for a bit.
Well, yeah, but let's talk about wine. It's like that. Wow, you know, wine. You know, the longer you leave it, the better it is.
Yes.
Kelly, I'm going to come to you now. I mean, obviously, even though 9 rounds is about physical exercise, there's a lot of mental, you know, and emotional energy that goes into that. Like I've been in your club and I've seen how committed your members are, and also your community. So the viewers that are watching this, what I want you to know is something very special about Kelly and her club, is that it's not just another gym or another club. It is a community. And so when 9 rounds, so when lockdown happened, the 9-round Albany community went, how can we help Kelly and Dave? That's the first thing they said. How can we help Kelly? You know?
Yeah.
And you know, and those are the conversations. Kelly, physical, emotional, mental wellness is happening in your club for the better. Can you talk through that? Is it just happy endorphin, great endorphin?
No, it's I work a lot around values. I reckon the values are the foundations in your body that allows you to assess things, that what John was talking about before, when a situation comes up, how are you going to react to the situation? So, you know, it's about honesty, integrity, respect. It's about courage. You know, all those things. And so when we built 9 round, we were like, our core thing was the values we were going to base our gym on. What were those? And then it's a matter of every person that walked through the door, and a big value of mine is just fitness, no judgment. And that has been like spread through our team, and every member that comes in, they feel accepted no matter what. And the thing about it is because they feel accepted, we are genuinely interested in every single one of our members. Every single one of our members is known by name, first name, you know, and our team will pick that up straight off the first bat. And that's one thing that I get constant messages about. New people coming in go, oh my gosh, they remembered my name straight away, or they remembered what my goals were, they remembered my injuries. And we remember because we care. And we're passionate.
You can't fake that. You can't fake that.
No.
You either care or you don't. No, it's beautiful. Well done.
Yeah. And we love to see people push themselves beyond the limits, because my thing about life is that we have one life and it goes by so quickly, and I've spent a lot of that life being stuck in sometimes some very dark places, mentally and physically. And so with that time, I've been able to grow the strength to work through those places to get myself to where I am now, so that we want to share with others who possibly are stuck in even a place of feeling unconfident about the way they look, or unconfident about their inner voice or anything like that. You know, we want to get them to a stage where they can come into a club and even if they're terrified, because they are, when they first walk in, when we first meet our clients, they're quiet, like little mice that, you know, they go around each round and they're real quiet and just kind of mingling in, they're doing their best. By the time they've been with us for a few months, they are the ones that are talking to everyone in the club, they're like high-fiving, they're like pushing themselves way beyond the limits, and they're a complete different person, but for the better. And that's what we pride our club to be on. It's not just fitness. Fitness is the vehicle. Fitness is the vehicle that people go, oh, I want to lose a bit of weight, because it's 9 times out of 10 what everyone says when they come in. I want to lose a little bit of weight, and we sort of go, yeah, that's the byproduct of what we're really going to show you what we do in this club. And then next thing you know, you know, a lion comes out of their little meek mouse, and that is what is the beauty of our club, because we know that they're taking that confidence into all areas of their life, into their families, into their workplaces. And I'll share a little story. The amount of husbands or wives that I've met outside of the club that have gone, oh my gosh, you all Kelly, oh, and I've had husbands in tears saying how their wives have transformed, how they lost themselves after having a baby, and then they've found our club and they feel accepted, and next thing I know, that their house has just become such a much beautiful, loving place. And those stories there are gold. You can't buy stories like that, you know.
And Kelly, so, I'm glad that you talk about about courage and the lion, because when I come in, I feel that energy. And you know, I can go up and talk to someone I've never met, and they tell me their story. So the trust is absolutely amazing, because they don't know me, but they see me as being somebody in the club and part of that community. And so I absolutely applaud you, because I know it's been tough on you, even as a business owner. Like we were talking before we came on here, you know, about, you know, how hard it is as a business owner right now to maintain the bills and keep everybody gainfully. And I'm not talking about your situation, but I'm dealing with a lot of, when I say I'm talking about your situation, I'm not talking about your club, but I'm talking about other businesses out there, dealing with a lot of other businesses with employment issues. And it all comes back to that, having the courage to have a conversation without confrontation. And John, I want to talk to you about that, because you and I both, well, all of us both know that a conversation with confrontation goes down a hole with a lot of cost and emotional toll. But ultimately, you know, with an employer or a company having to burden the cost of a lot of that, even when maybe they've done nothing wrong. So why are we having these confrontational conversations?
Well, again, we were talking about this, weren't we, earlier? It's that when you have a conversation with somebody who's under stress, they don't behave in a rational, logical way. And there's all sorts of different stress. The stress of not having the money, the stress of joining, being first in the club. That's your example. When somebody comes to your club for the first time, they don't behave in their normal way. They become a little mouse. So the stress they're under at that point changes the way they behave. And when you're having these conversations inside a business with people, you got to understand that you're not going to get honesty or rational behavior or sense, because particularly at the moment, people are under massive stress. They're not going to say to you, please forgive me, I'm under stress, but I'm now going to shout. It's just they react bang to the stress, and you've suddenly got them in your face. And what I think we've got to be able to do, it's the same thing. Mindfulness has taught me to be able to step back, and I'm still in the conversation, but I'm observing the conversation. So I'm not reacting to, it's not that I've stuck my head in the sand, and it's not that I'm taking the mickey out of the person. I'm just able not to, I always say that the conversation comes and I'm able, oh, there it goes. I saw it. It's just gone straight past me. That's okay. Oh, I'm back in the conversation again now. But the shouting has gone, oof. Now I can't do that every time, But a lot of the time, I tell you, it's bloody useful with teenage boys. I can tell you that you can let their anger just go straight past you and then step back into the conversation and not allow that to dominate, not allow that to steer the conversation into negativity. I'd love to say I could do it all the time, but I can't.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said you took yourself out and over the top, or you just let it go past, because that's the recommendation that I give to people, is that in the moment, if it is really at a confrontational point, pause it.
Yeah.
Ask the person how are they really doing, and what, and if they don't want to answer it, just say, well, come back to the conversation. You don't need to proceed with it. But I think a big part of what I'm really seeing, and I don't know whether lockdown has a lot to do with it, I feel that it was embedded in businesses long before now, is the culture isn't right, the trust isn't there. Because if the culture's right and the trust is there, then you can have conversations, you can have courageous conversations. But immediately when I say I'm going to have a conversation with you, there's an immediate, oh, I'm in the firing line, And so again, it comes back to trust, courage, which is what Kelly was talking about.
Is the fact that the trust and the culture isn't there because the owner of the business is under stress and therefore is reacting to what's happening around them, and therefore I'm wondering, Kelly, when you went through your bad patches, whether you weren't always of a caring nature at that point. But nowadays, now you've able to step away from those situations. You've learned how to create that culture, but it's only the ability of stepping away that's allowed you to create the culture. Would that be true?
Yeah, 100%. And I in my dark days, through the pressure and everything of that, I became really withdrawn.
Yes.
And as an owner of your business, I often say your wealth is the wealth of your business really comes down to the health of yourself first and foremost, because you lead, you are the leader, and then the health of your employees. And and then what I always say to my team is, and we do professional goals and we do personal goals, because personal goals for them as trainers and coaches is just as important, because they are the leaders in our field. And so when I wasn't on my game, because I had disengaged, because I was spiraling down that dark hole, then they were left sort of scrambling around. And
I think what I could say, if there's a business owner watching this right now, if your business isn't running correctly, then that is probably, and I'm being as nice and gentle as I can, probably a reflection of how you are personally. I know there'll be external circumstances. And so what we're saying is, if your business, don't make excuses for the external stuff. You've got to fix this bit first. And we all of us have to fix this bit constantly. Always working on it. So that's the most difficult thing, I think, for most of us, because we feel in a position, when we run a business, we feel in a position of control and power and leadership, and yet what we have to realize is that we've got to fix ourselves first.
Absolutely. It's definitely a symptom, and in my newsletter last week that I sent out to business owners, I talked about vulnerability, and people have got this whole mindset, it's not okay to be, they're not okay, so they're not going to deal with it. But by not confronting it, it actually gets worse. And
absolutely, never fix it by itself. No.
Yeah, people feel it, they see it, and so this, I say always, the strongest and boldest act of business leadership is to be vulnerable. And one thing I said to Kelly at the time, Kelly, you need to let people know where you're at. You need to let them know exactly where you're at, so that they can support you, because as sad as it is, especially when people get, a terminal illness or they lose somebody, people don't know how to approach it. But the thing that you can do is to say, I'm here, and I'm here when you need help, and I'm here when you don't need help, but I'm here. Rather than just, I quite often hear all the time, oh, I lost somebody, or I got this terminal illness, and then I lost all my friends. You know, why do we do that, John? Why do we just suddenly ignore a problem?
Again, I think a lot of that is where our attention is. When we are in these bad spaces, our attention is this way. We're only thinking internally about ourselves. When we're in a good space, we are able to look outside. This was this model I was talking to you about earlier, that once we move into these difficult situations, our attention moves this way. And we can only see our problems and only see what's in essence, it's ego. That's what our ego is, taken over our actions. And as we move into a more positive situation, as we move into a less stressed situation, a more mindful situation, our view then turns this way, and we can look out, and we're not encumbered by ego. But unfortunately, our ego takes over our life so easily.
Yeah.
And it damages everybody. Our ego is in competition with everybody else.
I'm glad that you mentioned the word ego, because I kind of resonate with that DIY mentality. We also think that we're invincible, and reality is that we can only do everything for so long, and eventually our body then goes stop. And you say it to me all the time, John, and I know exactly what you're talking about, because it does actually stop for me at times. I do have those moments where I've actually just got to catch my breath, and if I don't do that, then I'm actually going to impact on my own sanity and my own safety. My safety physically, my emotionally, and obviously mentally as well.
And then you can't do the stuff you do helping other people because you're damaged. So as Kelly said earlier, you have to take care of yourself first. It would be nice if you could live your life just helping other people, but you can't. You have to do this first.
And that's the thing, like, that's exactly what kind of happened when I first took on this business. Is for the first couple of years, I was able to maintain that high level of energy of outputting into filling everyone else's bucket, because I kind of was like, first year in business, I've got this plan, we're going to hit this target, we're going to do this, it's exciting, it's new. And then as
you drain the bucket.
It just drains. Your bucket's got a constant hole in it, and it's draining. And the thing that I tend to do now for myself, check in when I feel, and even like right now, you couldn't ask for a more stressful situation for business owners when you have huge amount of outgoings going out weekly, and you're not able to do anything to help and fill the bucket of financial income back in, because our doors are closed. And so it's a huge stressful situation for many. However, for me, I've found I've coped so much better with this. I'm actually able to wake up in the morning stress-free and able to train and spend time with my kids and laugh all the time with my partner. We're constantly laughing. And if you rewind that back a year ago, or even half a year ago, I could not say the same. So now what I do when I find myself sort of spiraling back in, I stop and go, hang on, what basics do I need to check in with me first? And it's like, am I eating well? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I drinking water? Am I filling my mind with positive things and not constantly looking at fearful things? Am I checking in with friends? Am I having a laugh? You know, all those things. Check in with the basics. And I believe
it's not selfish. People would label that as selfish. It's not selfish at all. It's just bloody smart. You've got to get this right before you can help others.
Well, if I just go back to Kelly, and John, you wouldn't appreciate this because you can't have babies, but Kelly and I have babies. But Kelly, you would have been told this when you had your first child. The midwife said, "Look after yourself, because if you don't look after yourself, you won't have a happy baby." So it always goes back to first yourself.
You first.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same with, when you're on a plane, they say, right, here's your safety mask. make sure you put your mask on.
Put yours on
Put
first.
others on,
Exactly.
It's the same analogy. So, hey, look, I really enjoy having both of you on here. We're going to have to wrap this up. So before we do, though, before we get into that, Kelly, you are a business owner. You do have staff. There's people out there that are just like you, and they're in this lockdown and they're stressed as. What is your recommendation? This is not a mental wellness tip, but just you're in the thick of it as a business owner with staff. What would you say to somebody like you out there?
For someone like me, before I was sprinting in business. I was always trying to sprint to the finish line of success. What I do now is I look at it as a marathon. I look at it as I love business. I'm going to be in business for a very long time. There's no need to try and rush through everything and burn myself out in the meantime. And it goes back to looking after yourself. Just think, and Dave says it to me, and Dave's my partner, he says it to me all the time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Because you can look at an elephant and think, geez, this is a lot to eat. But just one bite at a time, as long as every day you are looking after the basics you need for your health so that you can perform and you can not react and you can settle situations in a positive way, just one bite at a time. And that's my biggest thing. And that has saved me, that it's no longer a sprint, it's a marathon in business.
Absolutely. And it's also about having your trusted network around you too, Kelly. So, you'll ring me and you'll go, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And it's great because you've had to come up with a solution, but you're using me as a filter before you go back to a decision on what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you can't make decisions, but it means that you're actually taking that time to pause and reflect. So let's just wrap this up. John, you have a program that, I've been sending people to you where, they check in with you and then you're kind of like this thing in their conscience for the next 30 days.
I nag them to death is what you mean, right?
Well, I was going to say that. But there is a stereotype that only women nag, apparently, John. But what's your tips at the moment with people that are going through, and it's not just business owners, but their staff? You and I, we've got whole companies online, that you've spoken to. It's tough.
First of all, I like your analogy of eating one bite at a time. I think I've eaten a whole elephant during this lockdown because I've put a lot of weight on, but and it's taking too much care of me. It's just not a good thing. Anyway, no, a bit of advice. I think if things aren't right, if as a business owner you think things aren't right, then you've got to take responsibility and say, okay, I need to fix me. You've got to step back and say, okay, I need to fix me. I mean, I'm not going to die if the business goes under. I just need to fix me first. And then the most amazing thing happens when you do that. I liken it, Kelly, you were talking about sprinting. I liken it, I was in a river sprinting like mad upstream. I was making no progress because I was swimming upstream. What I found was by learning all of this stuff about mindfulness and about allowing myself just to step away, I just stopped swimming. Now I was traveling just as quickly, but in the direction life wanted me to go. I was fighting it before. And I learned that if I just relaxed and just observed what was going on, then I started flowing in the right direction and things just seemed to come right by themselves. I wasn't involved. They just sort of matured by themselves. It sounds like I'm being spiritual in this. I'm not. What I found was by stopping and working on me, things got right despite me. In other words, I sort of got out the way and life seemed to cure itself. And I tend to find that with people, it's allowing them to slow down and just relax for a bit. And then they look around and go, oh, well, this is quite nice, actually. I was, you know,
We can be our own roadblock, can't we? You know, like
all the time. We are.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody is their own roadblock. You're absolutely right.
And just to finish off with what you're talking about, John, I always say, why do you want to be doing something in life that's making you feel so stressed?
Absolutely.
Why?
Well, it's a habit. It's a mental habit.
I know you do things that fill your bucket. You know, life is so short. Live it.
Yeah.
So that's your top tip, Cal, is fill your bucket.
Fill your bucket every day.
Great tip.
You know?
Yeah.
Every day, all the time.
Every day, all the time. You know, because people gravitate to it, and by you doing it yourself, people automatically start going, what am I doing? I want some of that. And it just flows, like you said, it flows, John.
And I'm glad that you're saying that too, Kelly, because it is important that you do surround yourself with people that are positive. You know, it is important that if watching the news is making you negative, or being on social media is making you negative, you can turn the whole damn thing off.
Yeah.
The world will still go on. The world will still go on. So look, if you are watching this, there's some great advice here from John Shackleton and Kelly and myself. We're all here to help you on your journey. We've been in the same boat, river, stream, racetrack as you. We'll still continue to be doing exactly those things. But what we are doing differently is that we are knowing when to pause, when to reflect, when to reframe, and when to take opportunities out of that negativity. So if you're watching this and you can't afford the financial, the emotional, or the mental stress in dealing with what you're doing, reach out to us. We're here to help. Thank you both for coming on the show today with me, whatever the show that's LinkedIn Live, and look forward to catching up with you guys again soon. You guys have a wonderful week.
Awesome. Thank you, Catherine. Thanks, John.
See ya. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.